we are slowly progressing on this path of Bhagavad Gita, which is known as an Upanishad. Though it is not technically an Upanishad, yet it is the sum and substance of all Upanishads. And Yoga Shastra, at the end of every chapter you will hear that Upanishad Su, Yoga Shastra. So it's a Yoga Shastra. Shastra means a text which contains certain important instructions related to yoga. And yoga, as we all know by now, is the way to unite oneself with anything, and in this context, it is to unite one's mind with the Supreme Divine. And so, this Bhagavad Gita is like an instruction, is a manual how to go about uniting oneself with the Divine. For everything, we read a manual. Suppose I buy a new phone, which is the most frequently done thing now. First buy, then upgrade again, and so on. So every time we do, new features are released, and then we want to know how to use it, how to fully utilize all the features, then we read a manual. And once we read the manual, we come to know how to efficiently, effectively utilize the gadget. So in a way, Yoga Shastra is a manual which kind of teaches us how to use whatever is being told in the most effective way, ultimate way, without underutilizing it, without misusing it, without abusing it, how to do. And what is this Shastra telling us? How to unite ourselves with the Divine. That is the purpose of life. For all those who still think there is any other purpose of life, like Khana, Pina, Sona, Marna, in the last chapter we saw, who are the people who cannot appreciate the Divine? They are those who are dushkritino, who keep committing sins and engage in evil acts. Then mudadihi, foolish fellows who cannot understand any higher truth. Narada Maha, that category we remember quite vividly. Means the lower kind of human beings who are not interested in higher things, but lower things. Why? Because they are driven by their senses and sense pleasures. So for them, life is all about making merry, enjoying. And today's generation, there is a term, YOLO. Are you aware of that? Yeah, you only live once. There can't be a more foolish statement than this. Yes, you only live once in this body, then it is right. But you live only once, and so make the maximum of this opportunity to have got this human birth and then born in a family in a city and then enjoy life and make best of it. And that is the philosophy which drives most of the world, YOLO philosophy. But that YOLO philosophy is a hollow philosophy, because that's not the truth at all. Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Shastra will tell us, no, you don't live only once, you keep coming back again and again. Until when? Till you realize that you are that supreme divinity and nothing other than that. Till that Advaitic truth dawns upon you, there is no end to this cycle of birth and death, and we all know that by now, especially because of so many Paravidya classes and my various discourses, and recently through Bhagavad Gita. So we kind of have known all these things, and I don't have to repeat that. But what I was trying to tell you is that as we progress on this path of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna being such a wonderful teacher, so only a teacher can appreciate another teacher. And when I think deeply about how Krishna puts the concepts across and how carefully, without overburdening the student, without overwhelming the student, or without scaring the student away from the spiritual path, he is gradually, carefully, very slowly and sweetly teaching Arjuna. And we should never forget that their classroom is not some under the tree like all the other Upanishads have been taught, where peacefully you are sitting under a tree and teacher is teaching and you are learning. It is in the middle of a battlefield. That too, when a decision has to be made, you can't take too much time. The battle is about to start. And the pressure of making a decision at that moment, how overwhelming it was already on Arjuna to decide. On top of that, he has to learn the truths of the life and read the manual much later. He's 89 years old, should have read it much before. Now you don't read the manual when the gadget breaks down. You read it when you buy it, so that you don't misuse it or abuse it or underuse it. But unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way, Krishna knows the best time to teach this to Arjuna. And this single pupil, single teacher class, the message is going on. Until now, we have learnt all the other yogas. Every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is a yoga. It ends as a yoga. Name itself is yoga. Last time it was Jnana Vijnana Yoga, which was born out of Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga was to help us focus our mind on something for long enough till that thing reveals itself to us. That is Dhyana Yoga. You think of something for too long and then the truth of it is known to you. Many scientists have done that. In a way, they were also dhyanis. They sat and thought about a problem for too long. Suddenly, in a moment, like a flash, the answer came to them. We have heard of many such discoveries. We call it serendipity and things like that. But the truth is that that's their intuition which flashes and gives the answer because they have thought about it for far too long, too intensely. So when you think of the truth of spiritual life, that you are divine and none other than divine, for long enough, it also reveals itself to you. But our problem is what? Our mind does not stay in one place for too long. It keeps on vacillating between this and that is the major issue why we cannot think of. Then I told you 9 seconds, if you keep your mind on something, it is dharana, that is concentration. 9 into 9 is dhyana, 81 seconds, and 9 into 9 into 9 is samadhi, means that is the time when it reveals itself to you. But our fate, we live 100 years, our scriptures say shatamanam bhavati shatayuhu, live for 100 years because they are hoping that at least in 100 years time you will be able to focus your mind for 9 into 9 into 9 seconds and realize God. But 100 years pass, yet we don't find that 11-12 minutes of constant integrated awareness. We don't find those 11 and a half, 12 minutes in a lifespan of 100 years also. And now this chapter is going to really throw us off the guard. It will tell you, it's not even this 100 years, not in your 100 years. 100 years of Brahma also, things don't happen. That is the fate of a human mind. Uncontrolled, unbridled human mind is such that it is very difficult to bring it to focus on any truth, especially the truth of God. And that there is a reason for that. Kathopanishad, Yamadharmaraja says to Nachiketa, why it's so difficult? Because all the indriyas are created by the divine himself in such a way. Paranchikhani vatrinat swayambhu tasmat paran pashyati na antaratman. Therefore it sees only outside, it runs behind the things of the outside but doesn't want to turn within. Kaschid dhira pratyaga atmanam aikshat avrita chakshu amrutatvam icchan. Someone courageous, daring, sincere seeker, for the sake of attaining immortality and experiencing the eternal bliss that comes out of it, dares to turn all these senses within, which are always running outward. So this thought has come again and again. Here also he says, Mahishnanushyanam sahastreshu in last chapter, Kaschit yatati siddhaye, yatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam veti tatataha. Out of thousands of people, only a few take to this path of spirituality. Out of those who take to this path and achieve something in this, some one person comes to know about my true nature. You may have spiritual understanding, but it may be most of the times misunderstanding. Lot of these spiritual camps go on nowadays, even online spiritual camps go on, where everybody is told how to sit, how to breathe, how to meditate, and what to wear, what not to wear, what to eat, what not to eat, and they think all this is spirituality. Yoga means, now we are going to celebrate the yoga day. And while on one side it is a very happy thing that the whole world recognizes that India is the motherland of yoga, in the sense yoga originated from the soil of India, and now the whole world accepts it and they are all trying to do that. But this yoga which we are trying to do on 21st June every year, and after that any which ways we don't do, that yoga is only about bending the body. But where is the mending the senses and ending the mind? When is that going to happen? Bending the body is only one part of the yoga. But mending the senses, the outgoing senses, turning them within, is mending the senses. When will that yoga happen? And ending the mind, that is the final yoga. Mind does not move at all. Manas, what other Upanishads say, Mandukya says, Amani Bhava, means there is no mind at all. That state is something where mind is not there. It means there is no thought at that time. There is only an experience but no thoughts about it. That is Samadhi. So when are we going to reach that yoga? I hope someday we will be able to teach the world complete integrated yoga. This integrated yoga is of the body, the senses and the mind, and does not end with that. The Bhagavad Gita is the true textbook of yoga. Because while Krishna says in Dhyana Yoga, find whatever kusha grass and deer skin and a clean cloth and sit on top and things like that. But and keep your spine steady and head, all that stuff is fine. But that's still pertaining to body. Then Krishna tells how keep your senses under control, keep your mind steady like the flame that does not flicker in the absence of any wind. Keep your mind as steady as that, and then think of this idea of Supreme Brahman. And then the idea, if it's thought for so long enough, it will reveal itself to you. Sputa is the word used in our Upanishad, that it flashes like the Vidyul Lekha, like the lightning. When it flashes, all of a sudden everything is visible clearly. Like that it flashes. For all rishis, the knowledge has come to them like a flash, like a Vidyul Lekha, like the lightning flash. So when will that happen to us is the effort that we need to put and decide to attain it someday. Anyway, so last chapter, he said there are many people who don't want to understand my true nature. I have two natures, he said, right? One is the para prakriti and one is the apara prakriti. Apara prakriti is all these 5 elements, mana, buddhi and ahankara. All that is my manifestation only in you. But at the same time, I have a para prakriti also, which is beyond all this, which is beyond the 3 gunas also. I am untouched by all these things, though everything has come out of me. Like this space only has been segregated into a Premamrutam hall, and then the outside, and then the other rooms. While the Premamrutam hall was not there, it was one single space. But now the Premamrutam hall has come, it has become an enclosed space. But this space and the space outside are not 2 different spaces in a true way. But it looks like 2 different spaces. Likewise, the same material world also has come out of the same divinity, which is otherwise unmanifest, but we think of it as material world and we think of that as the spiritual world. But the truth is that the two don't exist. Another way of looking at it, our students of science know energy can never be created nor be destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. Likewise, the divinity, you can think of it like energy. It has transformed itself into matter, the material world, the lower Prakriti, what Krishna says. But there is a higher Prakriti of Krishna, unmanifest one, Nirguna, Nirakara Swarupa. And same thing is also told in many Upanishads. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also says, Devava Brahmano Rupe. There are 2 kinds of Brahman, Murtam cha, Amurtam cha. There is one which is form, with a form, one is without form. Martyam cha, Amrutam cha. There is one which dies and perishes and one which does not die and perish. Like this is Satcha, Tyacha. So it keeps on defining how Brahma or Brahman. See, this is different from Brahma, because there is going to be Brahma coming in this chapter. Now don't get confused. Brahma is the one who was associated with creation, the creator. But Brahman is the substratum, the underlying consciousness which pervades everything. 2 different things are there. So that we will slowly discuss over here. However, before we jump into the next chapter, we get into this chapter of Akshara Brahma, we must remind ourselves that towards the end of the previous chapter, see, Sri Krishna says that though people are coming to me for various reasons, like Arti, Jignasu, Artharthi and Jnani, is the Jnani who are dearest to me, because they come to me for the sake of me, my sake. They don't come to seek anything. Job beku, madve beku, makkala beku, mane beku, amele promotion beku, mare makkala beda, madve beda, hendati beda. Ragadvesha. He says somewhere, Ichha Bhaya. First you want everything and then you are scared of everything. You don't want it. So that is the idea of when first we want the world. We feel world is very nice. We want to have it and we pray and bother God. All kinds of God. He says, Yo, Yam, Yam, Tanum, Bhakta. You go to every God and pray. Once we get that, then we don't want it. Then we pray to God, please somehow help me get rid of him or her or this or that. That's the next part. So this drama goes on. Krishna knows it and he laughs it, I'm sure, laughs within himself. That again and again this happens. But he says finally somebody grows in spiritual pursuit and Bahunam Janmanamante Granvan Mam Prapadyate. After many, many births of such struggle, of what you call trial and error, they finally come to a conclusion that it's not worth it. And then they come to Krishna and says, Krishna, you are the only one I want. I want to fall at your feet. What you call prapadyate. They invoke the grace of Lord because they are done with the world. Enough is enough like that. Mundaka Upanishad says, after having gone through all experiences of the world, one finally comes to the Guru. How with Samit Pani, they say, with dry wood. Dry wood is symbolic of a dry mind, which is now completely detached from the worldly wetness. With that mind, person comes. But when he comes after having many births, gone through many births and births of this, like Buddha's stories are there. If those children who might be interested, Buddha's life stories, previous Janma stories are there as the Jataka tales. So you can read all that. The thing is that he says, finally somebody comes and asks for me for my sake. And that person is truly, truly rare to find, he says. It's not easy to find. Durlabha, not Durlabha, Sudurlabha. Very, very rare to find such a person. And finally he says, people do all these things. At the end, the foolish fellows don't understand my higher nature. They are busy with my lower nature only, including the Dvaita Bhakti. Dvaita Bhakti means Krishna means the one who taught Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, who fought the battle who drove the chariot of Arjuna, who played with the Gopikas and Gopalas, who was the king of Mathura and Dwaraka. That Krishna is not what he is talking about. That is also in the lower apara form only, because that also has perishability associated with it. Anything which perishes is not the higher form, lower form, which changes or perishes. So even that kind of bhakti also does not lead us to the highest. So therefore the next chapter, Akshara Brahma Yoga. We become devotees of Krishna. I am not Arti, I am not Jignasu Artarthi, I am Jnani. What jnana you have? Krishna was the one who was born in Dwapar Yuga and then he died because one fellow shot an arrow at his foot. And that's it. After that, nowhere about, we don't know what happened. Story ends there. So that is not the Krishna we are talking about. We are talking about a higher version of Krishna, what you call the para prakriti of Krishna, the supreme consciousness. So that is called as Brahman, or Brahma at times. But there is Brahma. Brahma is the one who created. He is not Brahma. So that little differentiation everybody should pay attention to. So last two shlokas of the previous chapter, where Krishna reveals a few concepts to Arjuna without explaining them. I also did not explain it last time because the explanation is coming now. Around 29th chapter, Krishna says, 29th shloka of the previous chapter, he says, Jara Marana Mokshaya Mama Shtritya Yatantiye Te Brahma Tadviduhu Kritsna Madhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. He says, those people who are desirous of getting rid of this Jara Marana. Jara means old age. Marana means death of the body. Those who are fed up with this again and again becoming old and dying. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janari Jatare Shayanam. Those who are fed up with this. Now, we are still not fed up, so we are not going to think about it. But those who are fed up, I'm sure old people feel this way. Many old people tell me, enough is enough, Swami. Now you please take me and, take me unto you, and things like that they pray. Because they are fed up with their old body which does not cooperate. They want to say something, they end up saying something else. Nobody wants them. And they cannot take care of themselves. Their independence is gone. They feel terrible. So at that point in time, suddenly Vairagya comes. Please get me out of this mess and give me moksha. But have you deserved moksha? Have you earned moksha? Just because you got old does not make you deserving of moksha. Old anyway you will become either ways, whether you are a jnani or a jnani. But that does not entitle you to moksha. Your moksha comes only when you have lived in a way that you have deserved it by the end of your life. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha, we say. So when you do the dharma, you do the artha, kama, and then you come to moksha. But have you lived your life which makes you deserving of that moksha is the question that we must ask. So these people, he says, are those who want to get rid of this, and therefore they come and take refuge in me. They depend on me for that. By putting efforts, not that simply you come and fall at God's feet. Many people say, Swami, you are supposed to be ahetuka daya sindhu, you are supposed to be compassionate without reason. So I'll commit all the sins and finally I'll come and fall at your feet and then invoke your ahetuka daya sindhu nature, and then, hopefully you will forgive all my sins and all that. No, don't play with God. Playing with God is like playing with fire. You can't fool God. after doing all kinds of things, and then you think, anyway, at the end, I know he is Karuna Sindhu, just go and cry, shed 2 tears, and he'll melt and forgive. No, he has created the whole world, he has created you and your Kutila Buddhi also. He knows what's going on inside you. So don't be dishonest with God. He is not going to forgive you just like that. He will also act like, yes, I have forgiven, next time you'll be born only as pig, and then you start again from there. Doesn't work. Don't fool God. So these people who have worked hard, because their desires of getting rid of moksha, like the Kathopanishad says, desires of amrutatva, what do they? They turn their gaze inward. That is the effort they put. So these people would want to get rid of te brahma tadviduhu kritsnam adhyatma karma kakhilam. They come to know of that Brahman, because they know all the things that are happening is because of that Brahman, and that Brahman is adhyatmam, is also within as he is without. With that idea, they do all the activities, and they see all the activities as being done that way. So that is the final result of having put efforts all your life, that at the end you have realized that ultimate truth within and without. And they also know that Sadi Bhutadi Daivams Mam Sadi Yajnam Chaye Viduhu Prayana Kale Picha Mam Te Vidur Yukta Chetasaha. He says those people also know that while I am the Param Brahma, who is within, without, and everywhere, I am also the Lord of this material world. I am also the Lord who enables the other gods and demigods to do their jobs, bless you with all kinds of desires. And I am also the one who enjoys all that you are going through in life, yajna. So these are the 4-5 words uses. One is uses Brahma, other uses Adhyatma, then uses Adhibhauta, then uses Adhiyajna. And finally says Prayana Kale. At the final stage, when they are about to leave the body, they are aware of this truth. Who? Those who have put efforts all through their lives. So that is the thing he says. Why he is telling Arjuna this? Because there is a possibility when Krishna is teaching Arjuna about his true nature, that Arjuna may not grasp, he can get entangled in the physical form of Krishna and might not raise himself to the understanding of the higher Nirguna Nirakara Rupa. So see how Krishna is building the whole case. First he tells, do your actions so that you purify your mind, do it without desire for results, do it as an offering to me, think of me and do your roles, all that. Then slowly he says, but your mind is not always steady, you do your action but you don't think of me. Many times our devotees say, till then I was thinking, that moment only, I don't know, I got so involved that I stopped thinking of you. How do I maintain that always, man mein Ram, hath mein kam, how do I do that? So that he says, do some Dhyana Yoga for that. Put some efforts to steady your mind. Shanai Shanai Uparamed. Slowly and slowly, every time it runs away, bring it back. Like a child which is naughty, runs away, you put him back in the class. So do that, put Abhyasa Yoga, he says, practice yoga. What is Abhyasa? Detaching from the world, attaching to the God. So this detaching, attaching yoga is Abhyasa Yoga. What is the practice? Detaching from the world. But if you don't attach immediately to God, you'll go back and attach to the world again. That doesn't work. Like Vikram Betal's story is there, no? So that is how the mind will behave. So both you have to learn, detaching from the world and attaching immediately to God. That is Abhyasa. He says, keep doing that. How long you should do? Till you attain it. So will it happen in 20 minutes? May not be. Will it happen in 20 years? No idea. Will it happen in 20 births? Absolutely no clue. But can it happen now? Yes, very much possible, if you have that effort and sincerity. So there is no timeline for this. It depends on your sincerity. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. So you put Shraddha and put this effort, it happens. So now Krishna has revealed some concepts, and slowly he wants to tell him about the higher truth, that you should meditate not on a form and a name, but on that highest truth. Therefore, Akshara Brahma Yoga, uniting our mind to the idea that God is Akshara. Akshara. Kshara means perishable, diminishable, in a way destructible also, or changeable also. But none of these is Akshara. Like Akshara, we call it, alphabets are called Akshara because we can't break that down further. A cannot be further broken down into further sounds. That is the lowest sound that you can get into. Like that, Akshara. Divinity is the very fundamental substratum. You can't further divide it. It is indivisible. But also it is unchangeable. It's not just imperishable. Imperishable means you can continue to live like somebody who has been blessed, like Hanuman or somebody. But they are changing. Their body is nevertheless getting older. What I am trying to say is, it's imperishable and also unchangeable. Unchangeable. It does not undergo any change whatsoever. It remains same, steady. Sanatana is the name. That's why our dharma is called Sanatana Dharma. that does not change. That law which does not change is the dharma that we follow as Indians. Because our law says divinity does not change and you are that divine. But then I say, I change all the time. Yes, that is because you are deluded thinking that you are anything other than that unchangeable divinity. That is the Maya. Krishna talks about that Maya in the previous, how you identify yourself, body, mind, and other things. So let me start this chapter. Arjuna Uvacha. Generally it's Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, but this time Arjuna because he's the questioner. And I love this method, question and answer. So Arjuna is asking, good, you told me about so many things, but I don't know any details. So please explain. Kim Tad Brahma? What is that Brahma that you talk about? Kim Adhyatmam? What is Adhyatma pertaining to the self? Kim Karma? What is action? Purushottama, or the best of the men, please explain to me. Adibhutam cha kim proktam? What is Adibhutam? What is pertaining to this material world? Who is the Lord of this material world? You said you alone are that. Then Adidaivam kimuchyate, and the Adidaiva, Lord of all the deities. Who is that? You say you are that. How is all this possible? You say you are only Brahman. You are only Adibhuta, Adidaiva. You are only Adi Atman. No, what all you are? Explain to me. And then he continues in the second shloka too. He says, Adiyagnya katham. Who is the Lord of the Yajnas? You say you are the Lord of the Yajnas. Ko atra dehe. In the body, who is that who enjoys all my actions? You said you enjoy, but how is that? You are outside me. How can you enjoy inside me? You eat, you enjoy. I eat, I enjoy. How can I eat and you enjoy? So that is the idea Arjuna is asking. Dehasmin Madhusudana Prayana Kalecha Katham Geyosi Niyatatmabi. How do we get to know at the end, last moment? You said it's very important to realize you. Those who are disciplined Niyatatma, they know you at the end as all this. How is it that we come to know of you? So how many questions he has done? He has 7 questions. 1, Kim Brahma? What is that Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam? What is that Lord of the Self? 3, Kim Karma? What is action? Kim Adibhutam? Who is the Lord of the material cause? Kim Adidaivam? Who is the Lord of the Daiva? Daiva means generally it is considered as Devatas who are controlling the world, like you have Vayu, Varuna and all that. Similarly, also we think of Devatas as our senses, who are able to help us see or hear or taste, smell, touch. So they are also called Devata, who make us experience the world around. That's called Diva, means effulgence, or which throws light on something, Diva. So that is our senses, through senses we experience the world. So who is the Lord of that? Adhiyagnya, who enjoys all that I do, including tasting, hearing, smelling, touching, all that, who enjoys it? And where does he reside within that person who enjoys? Because if I am not enjoying, somebody else is enjoying, you say, who is that? How does he stay? And these are the questions. And finally, 7th question is, final moments, how do we get to know of that truth? Do you think these questions are important for us, or is it out of syllabus? This is the syllabus. This is the only syllabus. Everything else is out of syllabus. You better know who all this is. You don't know anything about yourself. You know nothing about your phone, your computers, your cars, your homes, everything you know, including what's happening in which country and what's happening in whose home. But you don't know what's happening within you and around you. This is all about you and around you. So that is very important, because unless we know what we are, who we are, how do we use this life correctly? We'll misuse this life if we don't know it, don't know how to use it. So the most compassionate Lord, Krishna, explains, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, very short definitions. Is one stanza, 5 definitions done. Man of few words in that way. Aksharam Brahma Param. What is Brahma? Aksharam and Param, 2 adjectives. Aksharam, you know now, imperishable and unchangeable, and Param, that is the highest. Beyond that, there is nothing. You can't say there is something that exists beyond that. No, nothing exists. It is the highest. So Aksharam Brahma Param. This is the definition he has given. Now, Aksharam Para Brahma is the first definition. Then, what is Adhyatma? He says, Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate. Very beautiful and clear definition. Swabhava is Adhyatma. How do I exist in you as Adhyatma? Means Atma means self, this self, body. How do I exist? How am I the Lord of the self? As Swabhava, your nature. Your very nature is me, he says. Now, don't think that I am not a good man or I am an evil man or a woman. Then is that Krishna only? No, Krishna is the purer form. You have, like the bulb, that red bulb will show red light, or red glass will pass the sunlight. When the sunlight passes, it becomes reddish in color. So this red, green, yellow is your manas. Light was same. But he says, I am that your very nature. because of which you are what you are. Now you will say, I am a doctor. So are you the doctor in me? No. Are you the engineer in me? No. What I am is the ability in you to be the doctor. The ability in you to become the engineer. The ability in you to become whatever, including a criminal. What is that ability? The very consciousness is the ability. The very idea of being able to experience the world. How do we experience? Somebody who's in coma, somebody who's in a vegetative state. He doesn't see the world the same as us. His abilities are diminished. That very ability is me, swa, bhava, my feeling, I am this. That feeling that we get, that feeling itself is Krishna in one way within us, he says. So what is our true nature? As I said, after we discard everything, what remains is our true nature. See, if you think my true nature is, I am a teacher, but when you were a kid, you were not a teacher. And when you will grow up, you may not remain a teacher. No, I am a young man, but you are a young man only now. You may not remain a young man after some time. In fact, you may not even remain a man after some more time. You may not remain. So how is that your true nature? Your thoughts cannot be your true nature because they keep changing. Your emotions cannot be your true nature because they keep changing. So what is that which remains always, despite when you are a baby, when you are a grown-up, when you are an old man, and when you are gone? So what remains about you is your true nature. He says divinity is your true nature because that consciousness remains. Everything we see in that consciousness. So Adi Atma means that Jiva. Remember last time he said, how I appear in each one of us as Jiva. Jiva is like the electricity inside that small bulb. Same electricity, but this electricity right now flowing through that small bulb belongs to that bulb, apparently. This space which is within Premamritam belongs to Premamritam, apparently. Else every space is same. Else every electricity is same. Current is same. That is the idea. That divinity which is within enables us to do all our activities. That divinity is also Krishna. It's called Adhyatmam at that point in time. Then next, very beautiful definition, must pay attention. He says, what is karma? Generally we know karma means we are doing all these things and suffering because of it. Krishna doesn't say karma is that which creates suffering. What he says, bhuta bhavod bhavak karo visarga karma sangitaha. He says those people who know about it have said. What they have said about karma? He says karma is that which creates your past and future. And visarga, sarga means world, visarga means special worlds. What is special worlds? Everybody sees this world differently, isn't it? So the attitude that you have, the interest or the instincts and the aptitude you have, all that defines the world that you create around you. See, when we came to Satyasai Grama and we are living here, it's a different world. People come and say, this is like Swargaloka. This is like a Bhuvai they say. And just a few kilometers away is Bangalore. And you know what Loka is that. So, how did this world get created out of that whole world? Because of people who think alike, think in a pure way, think in a nice way, think in a divine way. This whole place has become a different world. So, visargaha, karma create the world, he says. So physically, yes, this world around us in Muddenhalli we have created for ourselves. Every child has his own world. He sees things differently. Every woman, man sees things differently based on his ideas. Those ideas have come from habits, exposures, actions. So those have come from where? From many, many births. So what is karma? Krishna defines karma is that which creates your fruits of action, in the sense the past and the future. Including your present is your result of some karma. So that is karma, he says. And also visarga, it creates your world for you. It does not create the whole world. It creates your world for you, your little world in which you live, which is your own making. So if you think it's a miserable world, you have to ask yourself, who made it miserable for you? If it is a happy world, who made it happy for you? Duryodhana was told, search for one good person in this whole town. And Yudhishthira was told, search for one bad person in this whole town. Both came back to Krishna saying, there is not one good person, Duryodhana says, and not one bad person, Yudhishthira says, in the same town. How is it possible? Visarga, Duryodhana sees everybody as evil, because his reflection, Yadbhavam, and Yudhishthira says everybody is good. So that is the idea, Visarga. So what a beautiful definition of karma. Karma is that which creates your world for you. And eventually we learn that this is not the only world. There are many worlds. they also get created, or you also experience those based on your karmas. So now we have gone to three definitions: Akshara Brahma, Svabhavo, Adhyatmuchyate, Bhut Bhavot Bhavakaro Isarga Karma Sangitaha. Now another definition of Adhibhutam. What is Adhibhuta? Material side of things, like our body and all the senses and all the five elements in which we dwell. What is that? He says, Adhibhutam Ksharo Bhava. Whatever is perishable side of this world, that is Adhibhuta. I am the Lord of that also. Example, energy turns into matter. Now matter is also energy only in other form, but it's a perishable thing. Energy is imperishable. So this aspect of the creation is also me, which is like his apara nature. Then he says, Purushaschadi Daivatam. What is Adi Daiva? Who is the Lord of all the gods? Suppose all the ministers report to the Prime Minister, right? So the Prime Minister rules over all the ministers. So ministers are like Daivas, then Adi Daiva is the Prime Minister. So you go to any god and pray. Ultimately, last chapter he said, I only am behind Vidadhati Kaman. I only fulfill all desires in different ways. You write to Minister of Education, you will get permission. But he is acting on behalf of the Prime Minister. You write to the Minister of Health, he is doing his duty on behalf of the Prime Minister's government. Likewise, all these deities work under the great lordship of the Supreme only. Krishna says, I am that Supreme Lord also. And he uses the word Purusha. Purusha also means the one who dwells within, a pura, a body or a place. So we go to Aitreya Upanishad, there we see these definitions of Brahman comes, then Ishvara comes, then comes Hiranyagarbha, then comes Virata Purusha, that is Virata Purusha. So this definition also is me, he says. Then who else is there? Adi Yajño Hameva. I am only the one who enjoys everything. What is Yajna? Yajna is not only what we put into the fire during Dasara. That is one type of yajna. But he says yajnat karma samudbhava, he told long back to us. All karmas are yajnas only. If you offer it to God, it becomes yajna. So what is yajna going on within us? Every day we chant Brahma Arpadam, Brahma Havi, Brahma Agno, Brahmana Utam. This yajna, whatever we are offering, the one who is, what does Krishna say? Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita. I am living within you as the fire in the belly which digests all the food and enjoys. So Lord only is doing this internal processes also. I only enjoy what you hear, taste, smell, touch. Finally it reaches me only, he says. So that's why I keep telling. So what do you want to offer to God? What kind of songs you should hear, what kind of sights you should see, what kind of things you should eat, because that is all going to go to the Lord at the end. Can I do anything which is not proper so that I don't displease the Lord? No, I want to please the Lord. That's my purpose. So we will become careful when we know Krishna only is within, without, in everything. So in all aspects, you see, from the very indweller within who enjoys all that we do, to the one, Adhibhuta, who does all the things for us, who created the world around us for us to do things, to Adhidaiva, who does all the things through our senses, to Adhyatma, the Jivatma, who witnesses all the thing that is happening, to the Parabrahma, Akshara Brahma, everything is me only, he is saying. That is the idea that God only is everything. Man only becomes a father when he has children. Man only becomes a grandfather when he has grandchildren. A man only becomes a professor when he goes to the college and teaches. Man only becomes a son when he goes to his father. Man only becomes a brother when he meets his siblings. So same man is in different form. Same way Krishna says, when I am nothing, I will say, when I am with man, I am a man. When I am with women, I am a woman. When I am with children, I am a child. When I am alone, I am God. That is the idea. So alone, Parabrahma. With the world, Bhuta. With the senses, Daiva. As the enjoyer of everything, Yajna. As the enabler of creation of different worlds through actions, Karma Devata also he only is. So this is the idea that Krishna is everything. So he tells Arjuna, oh Arjuna, this is what I am. And here he uses a very new word, Deha Britam Varaha. You are the best of the embodiments, he tells Arjuna here. Different adjective for Arjuna. So far, Dhananjaya, Parantapaha, this, that and all that. This is a Dehabrita. You are also embodiments. He is reminding him. Among all the people who are embodied here, you are now the better embodiments. That's why I am teaching you this. Because not everybody is ready for this lesson. You are ready. So he appreciates Arjuna's discipleship at this point of view, because Arjuna has asked the right questions. He simply didn't say, what did teacher say? Exam time le nodana. That attitude, Arjuna, no, Swami, now when here I told, what is the Vidyarthi Panchalakshanaha? First is Kakacheshta. You should pursue your teacher till he gives you the knowledge. You should not give up. Kaka Cheshta. So Arjuna has the inquisitiveness. I will not leave Krishna till he explains everything. So Krishna says, Deha Britam Varaha, you are the best of the human beings around. Of all the people in the battlefield, you seem to be the better of the lot. Because you have right questions you're asking. Then Krishna says, 5th shloka, one more is left, no, one question is left unanswered. What is that? Prayana Kale, when end, how do we get to know if you? Now, all the other shlokas of this chapter is only the answer to this last question, 7th question. All the other things are concepts which have been cleared. If you want to read more about it, and these are Vedantic concepts, you can read Tattva Bodha, which has several of these concepts clearly explained. Meanwhile, I will go to the next thing, which is most important. Why beat around the bush? Come to the point, which is how do I save myself? Tell me who you are not, that is all secondary. How do I save myself? Tell me that. So that's the answer. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaha. At the end, whoever remembers me while giving up this body, such a person, because he is continuously meditating on me, I am only feeling his entire being, such a person reaches me, there is no doubt about it, he says. Again, it's a reinforcement of what he said, a re-emphasis that you will reach. Now my whole question, our whole question should be, how do I attain that ability to think of him only at the last moment? Now you have the story of Jada Bharata, he was the king who gave up as per the Shastras, took sannyasa at the end, was living in one Kanvarishi's ashram near Gandaki river, somewhere near Haridwar. And then what happened? He fell in for a small deer which was an orphan, and then it had looking after it, and finally became so attached that one day deer disappeared. He was thinking what would happen to the deer, whether some lion would have eaten it, and thinking like that he died. So last moment thoughts were not of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, was a deer which ran away. And out of that moha he dies and was born as a deer again. This story is there in Bhagavatam. And when he is born, he realizes, Ayyo, I am that Bharata Muni, Bharata king, who is born as the deer again. What a he says, Aho kashtam brashtoham, he says. What a fate I have encountered because of my stupidity at the last moment of remembering the deer and not the divine. And so he is born. Then he spends rest of his life in the ashram of the Rishi, listens to Vedas, Shrutis. This time he is careful. I don't want to fail again. So he studies well, and then he clears the exam, but then again he has to go through human birth, because last stop is human. So he has regressed, now he has to progress again. So comes back as born as a human in a Brahmin birth, but behaves as a fool. Why? Because he doesn't want to behave in an intelligent way, otherwise everybody will drag him. His father would want him to marry, so he didn't want to marry, so he behaved like a fool, so that nobody marries him. And people, but at the same time he gets a lot of ridicule and scolding. But at the end he is a jnani, and finally he redeems himself by the grace of God and never has to be born again. So that story of Jada Bharata should be a constant reminder that we can end up, we don't know. And Yamadamraja says to Nachiketa when he asks, he says, Yoni manye prapadyante sharirattvaya dehina sthanum manye anusayanti yatha karma yatha shrutam, he says Kathopanishad. One may be born in a different category of yonis. Yonis means different species. You can become any animal, like Jada Bharata became the deer. You can also become anything, That is one part of the danger, that from human birth you can slip back into some animal birth or even lower tree. Sthanum manye. Sthanum means which stays steady, doesn't move. What all does not move? Tree does not move. Stones don't move. These rocks and mountains don't move. You can even become that, he says. Ahilya became a stone, right? You can become that also if you are not careful. What is the reason for that? Yatha karma yatha shrutam. Whatever actions you undertake, remember, we create our own future and past. We create our own destiny by our actions. One. And shrutam, whatever we hear, because ear is the first point of entry for any thought, good or bad. So yatha karma yatha shrutam. Whatever we have heard, learnt in our lives, and whatever we have done, that will decide where we are born again. So if you have done good things, and even though we could not remember God or remember the Brahman at the last moment, yet at least we will get a good birth. That's the only solace in this whole chapter and the previous chapter, that even if you have messed it up, don't worry, at least you'll be born in a decent family where you'll be able to continue your spiritual progress. He says, no, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Vijayate. In good families, pure families, you may be born, even if you are Yoga Brashta. You deviated from the path, you didn't follow it all through. It's okay, you'll be born in a better family than before. So he says none of these issues, none of your efforts will be wasted. This Krishna has assured us. That's the only consolation on this path. Because we all know that it's not easy to remain in that steady consciousness, that state. So what he says is that, but nevertheless, we must be prepared to leave our body. And when we leave our body, we should be able to realize the truth. How? As Krishna being the Supreme Brahman. Krishna is only a representative. You have to remember Supreme Brahman. Now what happens? He also continues to say, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavita. Same concept. Whatever they think of at that moment, they will end up in that state in the next birth. So first thing, I want everybody to appreciate that we are very lucky to be born in India because we know about rebirths. Most of the Western countries don't believe in reincarnation. In fact, I had a devotee who is a Jew. And he came for the first time to India and he said, I feel I've come here before. Everything feels familiar. The sound, the smell of the things and the colors, the place. I feel I've been here before. Then I told him, yes, you had been here before. You were born here before. He said, no, don't tell me that because Jews are not born before. They are not supposed to be. I said, yeah, that is your philosophy. You follow that. It helps you to become good in this birth only. It's a good thing. Otherwise, you know how many chances I have to clear this exam? As per the Bhagavad Gita, infinite chances. You can keep failing forever and keep clearing. Is this a good news or a bad news is my question. A student who says, till how many attempts I can make to clear my 10th board exam? And if I tell you infinite attempts, till you are 100 years old, you can keep writing the exam. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing because you should be ready to clear it in the first attempt, if not second. So our birth and death stories of infinite, so to say, opportunities, but they are infinite, as I said, painful births and deaths. So what Krishna says that because at the last moment, whatever you think, that is what you will become. Therefore, how should I prepare myself so that I die correctly? In a way, this chapter tells us that all life is an effort and preparation to die correctly. Death is inevitable. Let us not shy away from discussing it. Why death, why death? Death is the very vesture of life is what they say. You know, we cannot escape that, push it under the carpet. It is true and we have to know how to die correctly because if we don't die rightly, we will be born again in a wrong way and then we have to go through the whole nonsense again. So Krishna says, therefore what should I do? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu maam anusmara yudhyacha mayarpita mano buddhi mamai vaishya sanchayaha. Very important shloka. This I repeat often during discourses also, which says, therefore what should do? All the time think of me. Because harati nimishad kala sarva, when death will come, we don't know. At that moment only you think of something, accidents happen like this only. You tell him, how did you meet with this accident? No, till then I was focusing on the car only. That moment only phone rang and accident happened. So that moment, a little distraction and who knows, that time only was your last moment. So Parikshita had a date and time. 7 days from now, when Saying will come and bite you, you will die. So what did Parikshita do? Order as many pizzas, ice creams, cakes and finish it before I die. No, he went and called on the great Brahmagyani, Brahmarishi, Shukamuni. He was 16-year-old. Shukamuni was just 16-year-old, naked saint, who had no idea where the body is, what is happening. He was continuously immersed in the Brahman. So he seeks his refuge and seeks his guidance, and then Bhagavatam is told and all that. And he finally merges in the Lord, because till last moment he was thinking only of God and nothing else. Now imagine, we don't know what time the death is going to come. There's a beautiful poem. Pancha bhautikamu durbalamaimana kayambu yappudu vidichedo yerukaledu uruno adivino udaka madhyambuno yappudu vidichedi yerukaledu. We don't know when we are going to give up this body. In the middle of a city, in a jungle, or in the middle of water. We do not know. And with COVID around, we just do not know what can happen at what moment. How many people lost their kith and kin without having thought that they will lose them. It was a shock to them. So that fragile a life is, which is made of these five elements. Don't be too sure that you will live forever. Count every moment as another moment, another blessing. That's why I tell every day you wake up, thank God that you have given me another day, because you trust me with your work. You trust that I will use it well. Therefore you have given me, please bless me that I use it well. And when we end the day and go to sleep, we must thank God again that I have spent the way hopefully as per your wishes. And if you think I must do something more for you, please wake me up tomorrow. So every day you wake up, remember God is remembering you. We don't want to do Suprabhatam, but God definitely remembers us first thing in the morning when we wake up, because He has woken us up. Had He been that whatever is Adi Atma, He left us, then we wouldn't be awake tomorrow morning. So He is the one who gives us this opportunity. Therefore He says all the time do the right thing. And the next line is very important. Mayyarpita mano buddhi mame vaishya samshayaha, who has offered their mind and intellect to me, they will reach me. Because our mind and intellect are the reason why we keep distracting from this path. If we had no mind and no intelligence, we were completely immersed in God's intelligence and mind. Remember, Yached Vang Manasi Prajna Tadyached Jnana Atmani, Katopnishat says, merge your lower senses and mind into higher mind of God. And live as if the way God would live. Be on an autopilot. Let your thought, actions, everything be guided and done by the divine. If you do that, where is the question of thinking of anything other than God? So how to attain that? He says, you have to offer your mind and intellect to me. What does mind do? It thinks about various things. It gets attached to it, or it gets afraid of things. And what does buddhi do? Buddhi analyzes, discriminates. So continuously discriminate. This is spiritual, this is not spiritual. This is godly, that is not godly. That is why Viveka, Vairagya, Shatsam, the what you call Sadhana Chatushtaya, 4 kinds of things required: Viveka, Vairagya, Shatsampat, and then Mukshutvam. There are 4 things Shankaracharya says. This is Viveka Vairagya, Mana Buddhi. You should think and discriminate and detach. So Viveka will happen in Buddhi. Buddhi will say, this is not right. This is not going to help you remember God at the last moment. So don't do this. And Vairagya will come from the mind. Mind has to develop Vairagya. Oh yes, you think so? This is not the right thing to do? Okay, I shall not think about it anymore. See, that Viveka Vairagya partnership is mind-buddhi partnership. Viveka is from the buddhi, Vairagya from the mind, detaching. That's what attaching, detaching. And even in the Kathopanishad, when Nachiketa insists, tell me about that truth. I don't want the Swarga Loka and all that. Please tell me the truth. And how do I start on this path? First thing Yama Dharmaraja says, instructions is, Shreyascha Mayascha Manushya Metat, Tav Samparitya Vivanakti Dhira, Shreyo hi Dhiro bhi Preyoso Vrinite, Preyo hi Mando Yoga Kshema Dhrunite. The good guy will always remember to choose the right over the pleasant. That is the idea. Start from now and start in every aspect. I am speaking to somebody. The way I am speaking, is this divine or is this very bad? It is not divine. The way I speak and behave with somebody, immediately develop Vairagya, cut off from that. And prepare yourself to speak in a way that will please God, because that is how all the time you can think of God. So it's possible or not, it is possible, because while walking we can also do talking. Walking is also happening, talking is also happening. Why? Because we have practiced walking so much that talking is natural. So how is your mind able to handle both? One is handling from the conscious mind, another is handling from the subconscious mind. So if you think of this idea of God too long, it will slip into your subconscious mind. Without you realizing, it will keep happening. How do you check? Suppose you get a bad dream. What do you shout and wake up? Ayo apar, somebody says Sai Ram, they say. Or suddenly something shocking happens. The first word that comes out from our mouth is Sai Ram. Why? Because we have been thinking of Sai Ram so much, it's gone into our subconscious mind. And it should further go, because last moment when it comes, we do not know. So it should become a part of our consciousness, so that we immediately remember that only at all times, especially when Yama arrives to take us. That is the idea. Think of God so often, so long, so intensely that He becomes a part of your subconscious living, and further into your unconscious state also. You're in deep sleep also, the divine thoughts are always there. When you suddenly wake up from a very deep sleep, without going through all these REM cycles and all, you still be able to remember God. So that is the idea. You ask yourself, how often do you think of God even in a sudden state of shock or sudden thing that happens to you? If that is the first thought that comes to you, God comes as the first thought, you know that you will be redeemed even at the last moment. Because what can be more shocking than that Bhayankara form of Yama arriving on his big buffalo? I hope he won't come. Devadutas will come and take us. But whatever it is, we must be ready. So he said, therefore, all the time you do, like Hanuman was going on snapping his finger because he did not know when Rama will yawn. And Rama was going on yawning because he did not want one snap also to be wasted. That's how we should think of God, and not less than that. So this is the idea. Ninth shloka, he explains how you should think of me. He says, Kavim, 8 qualities he tells. Kavim, Puranam, anushasitaram anoraniyan anusmaredya sarvasya dhataram achintya roopam aditya varnam tamasasparstat. He says 8 things. Kavim, I am the all-knowing, omniscient, omnipresent, all-knowing Lord. Why? Because I am in everything. So I know everything, I know everyone. 2, Puranam, I am the oldest one. Nobody was there before me. Brahman, as Aitreya Upanishad says, he alone was. And he thought nobody knows that I am, so he thought of creation. So he alone was, he is the oldest. Anushasitaram, he is the disciplinarian. He is the lawgiver and also the law administrator. Lawgiver doesn't work, I have realized that. Now I become law administrator also. Why? Because you have to ensure it happens. That's why Upanishads say, no, Bhishasma dvatah pavate, Bhishodeti surya, Bhishmandrashchagnischa, Mrityurdhavati panchama. Out of his fear, what happens? Sun rises on time and sets on time. Wind blows, seasons change, fire burns, even death runs. And Indra does his job properly. When boss is in the office or the teacher in the class, all the students behave. If he goes out of the class, everything is a chaos. Imagine so many planets, they don't bounce into each other, bump into each other. Leave the traffic without a signal and a traffic police and see what happens. Next moment you have plenty of accidents, traffic jam. Because by nature, mind is not disciplined. It needs disciplinarian. So God is the disciplinarian. How does he discipline us? Like they do bad karma, suffer because of that. That is the discipline approach, reward and punishment approach of karma, which God uses to discipline us. So he is Anushasitaram, Anoraniyan, he is the subtler than the subtlest. That's the biggest problem with God. If he was very gross, like Gulab Jamun, we could have easily enjoyed it. But he's so subtle, how to catch him? Because he said, no, we can't describe it, yato vachoni vartante aprapyo sasa. We can't explain, I can't experience. The only way is to become him, to realize who he is. That is whole life's effort and lifetime's efforts. So, but anyway, we have to keep putting effort, that is the whole idea. He is the subtler than the subtlest, and for the science students, a simple thing. You break down everything. You break down a desk, not now, but what I mean is symbolically. You break down anything and finally reaches an atomic level. Break down the atom, subatomic particles will come, nucleus, proton, neutron, quarks, God particle, they talk of it now. Finally, you break down everything, what remains? Just space. But is that space empty is the question you have to ask. That space is not empty, it's filled with a force, what we call as unified field theory now. What is that force? There is electromagnetic force, there is gravitational force, there is a weak nuclear force, and there is a strong nuclear force. These forces keep the world together. Otherwise, we are all space. Just to give you symbolically what we are, if you think nucleus is a football kept here, the first electron will be found 15 kilometers away. And all that in between is just empty space. Still, the electron doesn't come and fall into the nucleus doesn't come and bump into electron, nor any other electron bounces and bumps into each other, because of the forces that hold them at their place. That's why my finger doesn't go through this hand. Why? Because I have forces holding the atoms, which hold the molecules, which hold the whatever, and finally the whole flesh and bone, everything is like that. So this solid world is actually empty world. Solidness is our understanding, because we are experiencing the forces that keep things together. They don't let them fall apart, nor they let them kind of clash into each other. That divinity is also he, Anoraniyan, smaller than, subtler than the atom, he exists. How? As that force of nature. Then, Sarvasya, how to think of Anusmaretyaha? How do you think of it? Anusmara means to remember continuously. How? Sarvasya Dhataram, he is the bearer of everything. He is the substratum, he is the foundation on which everything exists. Manigana, Sutraihi Manigana, he saw last time, like the string that holds the pearls together. He alone holds the world. Just now I told, all these forces, if they are not balanced, what will happen? All atoms will bump into each other, they will merge, all spaces suppose disappear, we all will become one cube worth of matter will become. That's what they say. If you squeeze the whole of this world, it can fit into a cube. Actually, that is also not the truth, because even that matter does not exist. Just to give symbolically the idea of how much empty space is there. So he says, Dhataram Sarvasya, he holds everything, Achintya Rupam, but you cannot imagine a form for him, he is formless. Achintya, you can't even think of him, because the moment you think, God is out. Thought disturbs God's presence. That's why Kathopanishad says, then when yada panchavi tishtante, even buddhim tam na vicheshtate, even buddhi does not move, even this much disturbance is not there. That is the param gating. Mana, buddhi, chitta, everything is absolutely steady. That is higher state, that is Brahman. So very difficult to imagine. The only way to know Brahman is to be Brahman. That is the only way. And then Aditya Varnam, he is the nature of like an effulgent sun. Aditya means sun. Diva means brightness. So Aditya is supremely bright. And Tamasa Parastat, he is beyond darkness. Naturally, does sun know anything about darkness? No, because he is always effulgent. So he is never knowing what is darkness. Likewise, this is Aditya Varnam. Two things we have to understand. Aditya Varnam, because it is effulgent, in its light everything else is seen. In the awareness given by Brahman, in that consciousness we become conscious of all this world. This is a deep concept. Paravidya people know this concept. Others can go and revise or learn from there. That it is only the consciousness which makes us experience the world, the good, bad, ugly. And that consciousness is like sun. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nama vidyato kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam ida vibhati, says Mundakopanishad. When it shines, everything else shines in its light. And as it shines, so everything else shines. How do we see sun? By sun's own light. It's sun's light which enables us to see the sun. Like that, Brahman can be seen by Brahman only, in the sense, knowing Brahman is to be Brahman. Brahma Veda Brahmai Bhavati, or Prajnanam Brahma. This is the idea. And he says Tamasa Parasta. It's beyond darkness, because how can darkness touch something which is Svaprakasha, is always effulgent? So once you become Brahman, you become that Jnani for whom there is nothing called ignorance or darkness. These are the various qualities of Brahman. He explains. Like these, many explanations come in various Upanishads. But it's a joyful thing to read this, because those rishis got it right. See, Bhagavad Gita, so to say, is the essence of all the Upanishads. Upanishads were there before. And rishis got it right. This time Krishna is saying, so he knows he is the doer, he is the everything, so he knows he is telling. But rishis also had got it right in way back. All the qualities of Brahman, they had got it right. How? By being Brahman. They got it right by being Brahman. And finally he says at the 10th shloka, Prayana kare manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak sa tam param purusham upaiti divyam. The one at the last moment who can keep his mind steady, and because of great bhakti towards me. Bhakti does not mean bhakti to Krishna. What is bhakti? Swaswarup anusandhanam. Shankaracharya says, to discover yourself is bhakti. To research and find out who you truly are is true bhakti, he says. So that kind of dedicated person, yoga balena chaiva, by the yoga of controlling all his senses and mind and buddhi, what does he do? Bhruvar madhye pranam avesha. He keeps his prana, all his energy, in between the two eyebrows. We remember that from the previous chapters also. And samyak, completely, not just partly, completely, and realizes, meditates on that Parama Purusha and realizes it. Now tell me, how many of us at the last moment when your throat is choking and back is aching, food is not digesting, and there are motions are not in control, how many of us will be able to hold the prana in the middle of our brows and think of that Parabrahman without any vagary in the mind? How many of us can do that? Tell me. Almost sounds impossible, right? Because how do we attain this? But there is a solution. We will reach that. He says, let me tell you a little more. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshi. Let me tell you about that great state for which sake all the people follow brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means they withdraw from all other activities of the senses. Brahmacharya does not mean only abstinence or from certain activities. It's complete control on all senses is brahmacharya, because you need all the attention and energy on Brahman. Brahmacharya. Charya means the one who resides or moves around in Brahman. For such a person, there is no place for anything else. There is no time for anything else. So they are in complete control of all their senses and completely focused on brahmacharya. Why do they do that? Because they want to reach this state at the end. Also what they do, yadyatah yo vitaraga, by efforts they have gotten rid of all attachments of the world. By effort, see, by just like that it won't drop. You have to put efforts to detach. Attaching is effortless, but detaching is an effort. And that effort you must put, he says. And yadaksharam veda vidavadanti, that akshara, that imperishable about which all the Vedas tell. Similar shloka comes in Kathopanishads also. Sarve Veda yat padamamananti, tapamsi sarvani yat chayad vadanti, yat icchanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padam Sangrahena Bravimi Om Ityetat. He tells Om is that state in Kathopanishad. Here he is telling, let me explain to you. And what he says, that state at the last moment, what the dying person is doing, Sarvadvarani Sanyamya, Manovridi Nirudhyacha, Murdhanyardhayatmanaha, Pranamastito Yoga Dharanam. He completely brings all his activities of the mind and buddhi to a cessation, complete stop. Samyam, all the indriyas, dwaras are there. All dwaras are closed. It means you are not simply eating till the last moment or listening to some nonsense or smelling and tasting and touching and seeing. None of this you are doing. Everything has come to complete stillness. And what else he do? Completely absorbs and meditates on that hridi. Hridi means core of your being, which is where we say Brahman resides. When we ask you, who are you? Where do you put your finger? I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. He simply says, I'm here. Why does this hand go unconsciously to that place? Because that's where God resides. That's our swabhava, adhyatma. That is the true nature. So we automatically say, whether you're man or woman, your hand goes here. So that is the idea, that you meditate on that place saying, God resides over here as the Jivatma in me. Let me meditate on him. And then all your energy you take it to your head. If you read the Prashnopanishad, it says very clearly that when the prana leaves the body from the Brahmarandhra, which is on top, the chakra, sahasrara, you are liberated. Otherwise, you can leave from any other place on the way. That is not liberation at all. You get stuck there. So for those whom prana leaves from the bottom, because their chakras, only the bottom chakras are active. Food, ahara, nidra, bhaya, maituna chakras are active. So they leave from there. Many of these, when they die, they pass little motion or urine. That's the indication that their prana is left from down. Many people leave with mouth open. It means their prana is left from the mouth. Many keep their eyes open. It means the prana is left through the Agneya. But many people are completely in stillness, absolutely no emotion. For them, the prana is left from Brahmarandhra. In fact, there are cases when they even mention they feel a little blood, forms there because that energy cracks open the skull. So that kind of Brahma, you should attain that way. Liberation is what he is saying. So all those who are interested in dying correctly, they must pay attention to this. Because if you don't die right, you will be born wrong. Again, you will go through this whole chakra. So he says that is the kind of yoga dharanam that people do at the end, who have put efforts all their lives. Not those who think somehow will manage in last moment. No, it won't happen. And then he says, Om ityeka Aksharam Brahma, Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran, Ya Prayati Tyajan Deha Sayati Paramam Gatim. At that moment, after doing all this, what all? Completely controlling all your senses, stop eating, smelling, tasting, touching, means completely in control of your mind, senses. All your prana is focused in your head. You are not spending time anywhere below that. Then, contemplating on that Brahma Tattva which is within here, they chant Om. That is the final way they leave. So when they leave, they don't cry out, Om comes out of their mouth. Why? Because they practiced it all throughout. And Om iti Brahma, our scriptures say Om itself is Brahma. It's not just the representation, it is Brahma, they say. So when that comes out of their mouth, one story is there, no? And Shiva Parvati were watching one fellow, a thief, and they were saying that this thief is going to break into this house and going to steal things and going to get caught. So who is going to save him? Shiva says, if he shouts Appa, I will save him. If he shouts Amma, Mother Parvati will go and save. So they are watching what will he shout. He goes inside and gets caught and gets beaten. When he gets beaten, he shouts Ayyo. And neither Shiva nor Parvati can save him now. So when we die, we should not die chanting Ayyo. We should die chanting Om. But that's not possible unless you have been doing it all your life. That's the whole idea. And he says, Ananyas Cheta Satatam Yomam Smariti Nityashaha Tasyam Sulabha Partham Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. For those who continuously do this, I am easily available to them. Sulabha Rama, Durlabha Rama. Sulabha, when you are continuously meditating on him. And Durlabha, when you are doing it partially, that partial devotion, partial bhakti doesn't work. That's all I am trying to say. These are some of the very important shlokas. Pay a little attention. We are coming towards the second half. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahastrantam Te Ahoratra Vidojana. He says, see, we have a timeline concept in India, and most of you may not be aware. Like we are in Kali Yuga now, Prathama Pade, and this is the Brahma's 51st years, first month, first day going on right now, in which there are going to be 1000 Mahayugas. Each Mahayuga will be 4 yugas. Idea is that If our lifespan is of these 365 days, and as per Bhagavatam, Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years of human lifespan, and the Dwapara is double of that, and the Treta is triple of that, and Kruta Yuga, Satyuga is 4 times that. So 43,20,000 years is one Mahayuga. 1,000 Mahayugas happen in day of Brahma, and 1,000 Mahayugas happen in the night of Brahma. So one day and night of Brahma you can keep counting. And he says why all this is important, because in one day 1,000 Mahayugas happen, and one night 1,000 Mahayugas happen in Brahma. This is a concept. I am not really keen on explaining and fighting over how many years, because a lot of people have put all kinds of concepts. It's absolutely confusing. But what I am trying to say is that what is the point in talking about how far you went in your dream, and what time you boarded the train in the dream, and what time you alighted from the train in the dream? How does it matter? It doesn't matter, right? Like that you think, don't worry about that. You come to the point. Why this Krishna keeps explaining this? To emphasize upon us that please put efforts. Otherwise you will not get it right at the last moment. He says, like that Brahma lives. In Brahma's one day 1,000 Mahayugas happen. In 1,000 Mahayugas, each Mahayuga is 4 yugas. And we are in one yuga, Kali Yuga, or whatever. So that is the idea. And he says, every time Brahma wakes up, the creation happens. Every time Brahma goes to sleep, the creation dissolution happens. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya is the concept. So that this Brahma is different from the Brahman I am talking about. This Brahma is the in charge of creation. And for this, how long Brahma lives? 100 years. Each year has 365 days. Each day has 12 hours of night and 12 hours of day. Each of these 12 hours a day has 1,000 Mahayugas, it seems. And every time he wakes up, a new cycle begins. Every time he goes to sleep, the cycle dissolves. So there is a different kind of pralaya concept. Why Krishna is telling all these things? He says that every time this happens, what happens to you? That's my point, no? What is in it for me in all this? He says, Bhuta grama sevayam bhutva praliyate ratraya game vashaha partha prabhavatya haragame. Every time this happens, Brahma wakes up and the new creation starts, you are born again. That's my problem. And every time he goes to sleep, we disappear again. And next time he wakes up, we are born again. How? Avashaha, without any control on it. We can't decide, I don't want to be born. We can't decide, I don't want to go from here. It happens as per the rules of the nature. And Brahma's day and night is happening. So every time we are born, we are dying. We are born. So this goes on for not 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, 100 years of ours. It goes on for 100 years of Brahma. And then finally one pralaya happens, it seems. So there are 4 kinds of pralaya, they say. One is called Nitya pralaya. When we go to sleep, our world also disappears, right? When you go into deep sleep, do you remember you're a boy, girl, tomorrow maths or science or which exam? Nobody remembers. When we wake up, we remember everything again. Like that, the world comes back to us the moment we wake up. So that is the Nitya pralaya, we call it. Naimittika pralaya, that is Brahma's pralaya. When he sleeps for that night, everything disappears and comes back again when he wakes up, they say. Then there is a pralaya of Prakriti pralaya, means when 100 years of Brahma gets over, whole thing is destroyed and next Brahma gets the opportunity to create the next world. That is one thing. Finally, one more pralaya, Atyantika pralaya. That is very happy. Why? Because that is the pralaya when we realize divinity and everything disappears for us. Like when we realize that is only a rope, no snake in the rope. All fears disappear, this Maya disappears. That's why Maya mayamidam akhilam mitva brahma padam tvam pravishaviditva, Shankaracharya says. It's all Maya, it's all illusion, it's not true. It's a dream of Brahman in which he creates new world every other day. And we are born in that dream. But our helplessness is that we can't get out of the dream. Many people write to me, Swami, I'm scared of sleeping. I said, why sleeping is a good thing? We should sleep well. No, I get a bad dream again and again. The same dream comes. So I'm scared when I go to sleep, that dream will come again. In the dream, he sees something terrible, a monster, a daitya, pishacha or something, and he every time wakes up with fear. So doesn't want to go to sleep now, that fellow. How helpless. See how helpless. He has no control over his own dream. Like that, we have no control over birth and death unless we realize Brahman. Because that when we realize Brahman, it doesn't matter what's happening around. Suppose the boy remembers that he is dreaming and this monster in the dream is not real. This tiger in the dream is not real. This warden in the dream is not real. When we wake up, we will realize the real world. So don't worry, sleep properly. Just reject all these ideas. Vishwam tyaktva swapna vicharam, Shankaracharya says. Give up this world thinking it is only a dream. So if you remember in the dream that there is no tiger, how happily you can sleep. Next day also you can sleep and enjoy the dream. How tiger is chasing and you are running, and all that is just a show. So how can we develop that? No. So how do we get out of this dream? Helplessly we are being thrown into the dream every day, every night of Brahma. That is why he is saying, please find a way out of it. Otherwise this will go on forever. And he says, Paras tasmattu bhavo anyo avyakto avyakta sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashayatsu navinashati. He says, apart from this manifestation and unmanifestation because of Brahma waking up and sleeping, there is one thing which does not wake up and sleep or get destroyed or be born again. There is something beyond that, which is not destroyed when the worlds are destroyed or the worlds are created. It is not destroyed, it is not created. Now Krishna is coming to the point. And he says, Avyakto aksharam ityukta tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante taddhamam paramam mama. That place, which is akshara, imperishable, and avyakta, which is unmanifest ever. It is always there but cannot be seen, touched, tasted, smelled and all that. They say that is the highest thing. And how do we attain that? Once you attain that yam prapya, na nivartate, you don't have to come back again into this world. Tad dhamam paramam mama. That is where I exist. That is where I live. Not the Krishna, physical Krishna. That is where the real Krishna lives. The supreme Godhood lives. The divinity lives. Where once you reach, you don't come back again into this world of Maya. Like once mercury is converted into gold, it cannot become mercury again. When coal is converted into diamond, it cannot become coal again. Likewise, when man is divinized, cannot become human again. So we have to work towards becoming a divine person. I always say, you are born a man, no choice. But you have a choice to die a god, if you decide to, and if you put efforts. So he's saying, reach that so that you don't come back every time this Brahma decides to wake up and sleep. And once he hands over the charge to the next Brahma for another 100 years, which is 3 crore years. 3 crore years, yeah, that is the kind of calculation. So don't want to get into that. He says, Purusha sapara partha bhaktya labhya astu ananyaya. Only by continuous bhakti can you attain that. All the time you have to be devoted to the cause of your own liberation. Come on, if you are not interested in your liberation, who can help you? Nobody can help you. You are not interested in your redemption, who can help you? You don't want to pass the exam, you don't want to study. Which teacher can help you? Nobody can help you. You have to help yourself. Uddareda atmana atmanam. Help yourself. That is what he is saying. By param bhakti. Bhakti, as I said, the idea of working towards your emancipation is true bhakti. Bhakti is not about worshipping a god, singing bhajans, dancing around a statue. That's all lower bhakti only. That is saguna bhakti. Nirguna bhakti is what Krishna is talking about, where you don't think God as a form and a name, but as the supreme. Yasyanta sthani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. That is the self in which everything exists. That is one you should try to attain. Because once you attain that atyantika, pralaya happens. Means all the illusion of the world is destroyed at that moment. Suddenly the snake disappears from the rope. Now what's the point in doing research where the snake went? Because the snake never existed in the first place. So why should you know how many years Brahma sleeps, how many times he wakes up, what happens? Snake only is not there. So where is the question of doing an analysis of snakes' wherewithals? So the Maya disappears, world disappears, you remain Brahman, you see everything as Brahman, you are liberated as you are. See, when you die and become Brahman, that's called Videha Mukti. When you live and become Brahman, it's called Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti is better than Videha Mukti, because after you die, what use are you to anybody? But as you're alive and you realize divinity, you can be of use to everybody. And we have discussed about it. The best of the Brahma Vidas are those who are always busy serving the world, at the same time reveling in their divine self within. And it is possible. There are people who have achieved it. So Krishna is saying, try to become like that, O Arjuna. Yatra kale tvanam mavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshami bhartarshaba. Then there are some technical details. He says, what is the time when you die, you will definitely not come back. And what is the time when you die, you will come back. There are some muhurtas for that. That's what he's saying. As per the scripture, don't take it to... See, this is a poetry. Gita means what? Song. It is not a prose. It is a poetry. And there is a poetic license given to everybody. And there is a poetic license here too. So don't take everything literally. Take the philosophy out of it. Don't take the words literally, but the philosophy of it you should take. That you should be very clear about. Otherwise you will confuse yourself and confuse others around you. So he says, let me tell you the times when people die and they will attain moksha. and the times when people die and they will come back again. He says, Agnir Jyotir Aha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tat Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. There is one way of going, which is this time. What is that time? Agni. Agni Kala means through the route of, is not even, Kala means a route, he is saying. Through the route of Agni, through the route of Jyoti, through the road of daytime, through the road of Shukla Paksha in the month, the waxing half of the month, moon, when he, moon's face, Shanmasa or 6 months of the Uttarayana Kala, when the sun is in the northern hemisphere. If that is the time, Tat Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. So they said they attain the supreme when they pass this way. So now you don't calculate, suppose somebody decides to, Bhishma decided to leave only during Uttarayana. So that is how it is being said. But what he is trying to say, and today people may decide to stay in the ventilator till Uttarayana. So does that make them Brahmagyanis? I don't think so. It is not possible. It means what? So there is one nice, Chinmayananda Swamiji gave a nice example for this. He said, suppose you reach the airport early. Will your flight take off just because you have landed early? No. They'll take you to a lounge and put you there saying that please wait here till your flight arrives. So even if you die in Uttarayana thinking, Abba, thank God I died in Uttarayana, the devatas are there, no, they're waiting for you. So Shankaracharya interprets this as Agni, Jyoti, Day, Shukla, Mas or Shanamasa, Uttarayana, these are all devatas it seems. Like the airport counter, people will be waiting to receive you and put you to in a lounge and then take you to your gate. So even if you die in these times, don't be too sure that you will attain Brahman. And at the same time, corollary is true too. If you die in another time but you have done very good, you may attain Brahman still. So what is the other time? Dhumo Ratris Tatha Krishna Shanmasha Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The other side is there, where you go to through the fire route, Ratri, darkness, Krishna, darker half of the day, that is night time, Shanmasa, Dakshinayan time, and Chandramasam Jyoti, you land up in some other loka. Idea is that if you go through one way, in our scripture there are two paths, that is what is being said. One is the path of the sun, another is path of the moon. Path of the sun takes you towards higher lokas it seems, and path of the moon takes towards a lower loka. So what he is saying is that if you go by the good path, you have done lot of good, you will go to higher lokas. They have 14 lokas. What are the 14 lokas? Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, Mahajana, Tapa, Satyam, that is the higher loka is Brahma loka. And below lokas are there. What are those lokas? Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala. So you can go below -7 or go above +7. Depends on what you have done here. Accordingly, you will get the route through which you go. Daytime is when good things are happening. Nighttime, nobody is doing any yagna yagas. Fire, light, all this is associated with some rituals going on. See, the Brahmins or those who perform these rituals, at that time when you are hearing the Vedic sounds, you are involved in a great ritual, the possibility of you thinking of Brahman is better. And Uttarayana Kala, lot of festivals, lot of things keep happening. So your possibility of thinking of Brahman and remaining in that steady state is higher than the other times of the year or the day or the seasons when most of these rituals or most of these punya does not happen. So probably that could be one reason, but ultimate reason is what? Are you ready or not? That is the ultimate reason. Your flight is not going to take off even if you arrive at the airport early, and flight is not going to wait if you arrive late. So he says, Shukla Krishna gati hyete jagata shashvate mate ekaya yatyana anyaya vartate punaha. From the dark route, people go to one type of worlds, and from bright route, they go to one type of world. And he clearly says that even if you end up with all these things, you may go to Brahmaloka also at the end. But finally, at the end, you have to come back to Bhuloka only to finish your karmas. Remember, Nachiketa's father was always trying to go to Swargaloka. Why? Because there is a happiness, there are apsaras, there are dances, there is food, there is all kinds of pleasures. So all these people at the Lokeshana, Putreshana, and what do you call that? Vitteshana. They wanted money so that they can do yagnyas. They wanted sons who can continue doing pitra danas and yagnyas, and they want Lokeshana. They wanted to go to the higher lokas and enjoy, like 5-star, 7-star hotels. They don't want to go to the lower lodges. So that was the idea. And you may think, is this all true? In a way it is true, because these lokas do exist. But again, as I said, it is as illusory as our dreams. But if you have a bad dream, can you get out of it? Even if you want, you can't get out of it sometimes. So this is how it is. And Krishna says, Nayate striti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. Even though the Jnanis know there are two paths. One, you can go to good higher worlds by doing certain yajna yagas and good things, and you may slip to the lower world. They know both the paths, but they decide not to bother about both. They decide on to focus on how to get rid of both and ultimately reach the Param Dhama, from where there is no need of coming back ever. So even if you go to Brahmaloka, like many Dvaita Bhakti says, you worship Vishnu, you will go to Vishnu Loka. Or Rama, you go to Saketa Loka. Or Brahma, you Brahma Loka. Or Shiva, Kailash Loka and all that. But there also it's only limited. Remember when Nachiketa was arguing with Yama, Yama said, I will send you to Swarga Loka. I will give you all the pleasures. Don't ask me the question what happens after death. Because that is like you're directly attacking my bread and butter. Because as Yama, I have to take people and bring them back. If you stop my business, what will I do? So I want ignorant people whom I can drag by hair into different lokas and bring them dragging back into the wombs again. That's my job, taxi service. And if you redeem yourself, then where is the question of my job? So Yama is not telling the secret, but Nachiketa insists. He says very beautiful. When Yama says, I'll give you all the pleasures, don't ask me the truth, he says very clearly. O Yama, Shobhava Martasya Adantakaitad Sarvendriyanam Jayanti Teja Api Sarvam Jivitam Alpameva Tvaveva Vahat Tvavanitya Gite. Keep your dance, music, pleasures to yourself. Because even if you give me all these things, I know, even if I live for 1,000 years like this, I know at the end, all my energy will be drained because of the senses and sense pleasures. I will have no time and no energy left to do good things. And anyway, all this will come to an end, and finally you will be waiting for me. So don't you fool me into this talk. A sweet talk. Don't fool me by that. He tells very clearly, Nachiketa. That's why Yama loved him and he started revealing the truths to Nachiketa. And thanks to Nachiketa, we all know the truth. Because we all won't have the opportunity to go to Yama and discuss and then come back and do good. Once we're gone, we're gone. But Nachiketa could manage that. Final shloka. Vedeshu yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. See, he says, above Veda, Yajna, Tapaha, Dana, all the punya comes from all these things. It's good to do, but yogi is not stuck there only. He's not doing it for the sake of getting punya. Atyeti, he transcends all this. Tat sarvam idam viditva. How? Because he knows what lies behind all this. What is the ultimate? He knows all that. So he transcends that. Yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. He reaches the ultimate, primordial, original state, without any of these vikaras. That is the yogi's way. He doesn't want Brahmaloka, he doesn't want Satyaloka, Tapaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, no loka he wants. Nor he wants to slip down to the lower lokas, obviously. He wants a redemption from all this. And that is why you must know whom should you meditate on. Dhyana Yoga went on. What should I meditate on? If I meditate on the Krishna, who is the physical Krishna, I may end up in Vrindavana Loka or some Loka, Vaikuntha Loka. And I will live there for a certain number of years, enjoy everything. And finally, for the sake of redemption, I will have to come down back to this Bhuloka. So, it is so important to understand how blessed we are to be born as human beings. Last time I was telling, not just human beings, we are born in such a way that we are able to learn these great truths. So many people in the world are ignorant. Imagine, for them the world is just about eating, sleeping, making merry and maximizing their time on earth. And then there are philosophies which tell you the only thing that happens after you die is hell or heaven. And once that happens, finally you wait and finally you will get judged, and then we don't know what happens next on final judgment day. No, we don't know what the real truth is. So many people don't know what the truth is. Only we know. Why? Because we are blessed to read these Upanishads. We are the followers of Sanathana Dharma. We are born in India. We are born in a way that we are able to access this knowledge. And above all, you have Mahapurusha Samshraya, somebody who can teach you from experience, not by simply borrowing from the book and transferring it to your head. Pustakam to mastakam. No, through the experience of what is the truth, one is able to talk about it. And therefore, we must consider ourselves very blessed. But our blessings will mean nothing if we don't put the right kind of effort. And what is the effort that Krishna is asking? He is not telling bend your body, do this yogasana, do hatha yoga, all kinds of extreme measures. Starve yourself, deprive yourself of all kinds of comforts. He is not saying that. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna vabodhasya, yoga bhavati dukha. Your yoga is moderation. Moderate everything. Don't cross your limits. Don't run behind excesses. Ati sarvatra varjayat in spirituality. So simple. And at the end says, how do you attain that? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanuswaradhyacha mayyarpita manobuddhi mamaivaishya sanchayaha. Just think of me all the time and do your work. Teacher, doctor, cleaner, sweeper, singer, cook, driver, whoever you are. Just do your duty but think of me. Now tell me our fortune, how big it is. Because we are in an institution where we have no choice but to think of God and work. Automatically we have to think of God. It is so easy if you are in another place and anywhere else in the world, in the midst of all the competition and thick of materialism. How often can you think of Krishna and God or whatever, Supreme Brahman, and work? So difficult. So you already are very blessed. So many things have happened right for us. We should be grateful and be mindful of what has come our way. Don't throw it away, because like a monkey who does not know the value of a diamond, you throw a stone at him, it will throw the diamond back to you. We shouldn't become those monkeys. We should not be fools who will mudadis, who will not realize Maya haprata chetasa, whose discrimination has been stolen away by Maya of the world. You have been blessed to study here, learn so many scriptures. At the end, if you drop it and throw it away, there cannot be a greater unfortunate being on earth. Somebody who did not have access to it and understanding, he threw it away in ignorance, forgivable. You know everything. What is right, what is wrong, everything has been told to you. Yet you decide to do the wrong thing. How unfortunate. And now you remember Brahma lives for 100 years, and each 100 years has so many yugas, Mahayugas, and you can keep coming back. You have to study the same math, science, physics, chemistry, and who knows, you may get the same teachers, wardens again and again. At least for that sake, redeem yourself. But some people, laugh at me and they say, why do you teach all these things to these young fellows? And then some people also say, those people who believe in the YOLO, no? You only live once. They want to enjoy life. So when our kids go out and they are next to those YOLO guys, and the YOLO fellows are making merry, smoking, drinking, everything, and our fellow is trying to remain, steady and not get distracted. He struggles. She struggles. Why? Because looks like they are enjoying life and we are suffering. But this is the same state of those students who don't study all year. They're always playing, making merry, sleeping. A studious fellow might think, they are enjoying life. I also should enjoy like them. But he knows, the studious fellow knows, they are enjoying now. At the end, when the exams come, they will suffer. I will not suffer then. So that attitude we should have. While we'll think of the world as those who are enjoying, richer, becoming more rich, and wealthier and more arrogant and powerful, whereas poor people are suffering and this and that. Don't get deluded by all this. First you get your thought process right. What is the right thought process? I must do what is right. I must work in such a way that in case I have to close my eyes now and here, I must close in the complete consciousness of who I am. And what comes out of my mind is Om, not anything else. Om means the idea of Brahman comes in my mind, nothing else. So constantly living in that thought is the preparation to die right. This chapter is not very popular, not many people read about it. Only when the soul gets disembodied, it knows the pain of having lost an opportunity. It's so painful, it's inconsolable when it dies with the realization that it has wasted a wonderful opportunity. Pain is unbelievable. So please remember that this is the way of life. All life is nothing but living in a way that when we die, we have no regrets. Kim sadhuna karvam, kim aham papam akarvam. Why did I not do the right things? Why did you do the wrong things? These regrets don't happen to who? Anandam Brahmano Vidwan, the one who knows Brahma as the very Ananda Swarupa. For such a person, those regrets don't happen at the fag end of their lives. Otherwise, a lot of people die in regret. Anyways, there's so much can be talked. This is the favorite topic. Akshara Brahma is my favorite topic. I can go on and on and on. But for the time and situation, this is good enough for now. Please do go and meditate. Krishna again and again says, Anuchintayet, Anusmaran. Keep remembering, keep thinking about what I have said just now. Because this is what will help us to choose the right over pleasant, and always keep our mind on God while we go on doing our duty in such a way that any moment when Prayana Kala comes, we are ready to leave with complete consciousness of who you are in such a way that we reach that Paramadhama from where there is no need to return again.